Welcome to Crushing Kayfabe. Thank you for tuning in. This is Jason Garish, and I wanted to start the show off by addressing something that happened within the wrestling podcast community last week. An episode of Breakfast Soup that happened on the 18th of April, where Anthony Missionary Thomas basically put in his 2 weeks' notice on the show live while the show was occurring. Apparently this sandbag Don Tony, the two had been doing the Breakfast Soup for a couple of years now. I think ever since Kevin Castle left the Don Tony Kevin Castle show, and they've all known each other for probably about 17 years now, and it definitely was a shock to me to hear on the recorded podcast. Hadn't heard anything like this previously happening. I know Wrestling Soup and the Don Tony show had done a podcast for the first night of WrestleMania, which was really good. It combined Joey Numbers, Missionary, Kevin Castle, and Don Tony into one show, which was really cool to hear. Don Tony didn't return for the follow-up show the next night, which I thought was kind of weird. So, the next couple weeks, and the couple of shows have been kind of weird. Kind of chalked it up to fatigue from WrestleMania, but I wasn't expecting to hear Missionary basically announce his retirement from Breakfast Soup. Now he's faced a lot of backlash concerning this, which I really don't think is justified. I don't know why people are trolling him the way they are. It's kind of stupid, but is it the way that I probably would have conducted myself? Probably not. I kind of like to tend to do things of that nature in private, but you don't know what has been happening behind the scenes. You don't know what kind of conversations have occurred between him and Don Tony. You don't know what's going on in their personal lives. So I'll save judgment for that. And plus, everything I've ever heard from Missionary, he's always seemed to have been a stand-up guy from since day one, and like I said, I've been listening to all these guys. I've been listening to Don Tony back when it was a Don Tony and Kevin Castle show, listening to Wrestling Soup for a very, very long time. I remember listening to it in my first house. I used to every night used to put those on before I go to bed, and or I'd even listen to it live. So I've been a fan of all of these shows for a very long time. Been a fan of Solo Monster also for a very long time. Unfortunately, being the father of a toddler and having a family, I don't have as much time to listen to podcasts as I used to. When I was commuting to Memphis every day, which was an hour and a half one way, so 3 hours of driving every day, I listened to podcasts very extensively, but unfortunately I don't have that kind of time anymore. But yeah, I know that when Missionary had gone off the air with Don Tony kind of went to a 15-minute diatribe about the event, and he did ask listeners not to negatively comment on Missionary, and I definitely agree with him on that. Like I said, I don't know if it's a matter of Missionary being upset about not being included in Don Tony's plans concerning Blue Wire and all the things that Don Tony had been signing up with. Don Tony appears to be, at least on the surface, very ambitious. So he's always, it seems like he's always put himself first, which, he's built up his show to a very respectable audience, and he has signed a really good deal with Blue Wire and has some really cool things coming down the pike. So I can't fault him at all, and all these guys, like I said, have entertained me over the years, Unfortunately, as fans, we tend to think that we know individuals because we've listened to them for so many years and they've shared, personal experiences on the air, but we really don't know these people. We don't know what they're going through in their personal lives. We don't know what types of conversations have occurred off camera, off the air. So I definitely plead for everybody to reserve judgment on both parties, because I'll still continue to listen to the Don Tony Show. I'll still continue to listen to Wrestling Soup. I've said in the past, I've had some conversations over the years in the past with all these individuals. I've had a brief conversation with Missionary, very brief conversations with Don Tony, very brief conversation with Kevin Castle in the past. I've never spoken to Joey Numbers. I don't know anything about him. But I mean, like I said, once again, these are extremely brief passing conversations, so I don't know these individuals. I don't know them personally. I'm not friends with them, so really they, they don't deserve my judgment as, nobody does. Nobody deserves to be judged. But I'm hoping that this, just brings about some bigger and better things, like I said, I don't know if Missionary was upset about being left out of some of those conversations about plans to end some of the shows and whatnot, or as the show's being billed with just Don Tony kind of thing. I mean, that's the deal he signed with Blue Wire, though. So I don't know. Like I said, everything that I could say would be speculation. I just know that I fully support these individuals still, and they both had some very glowing things to say about each other, and very respectful things to say about each other. And like I said, it's like a 17-year relationship, professional relationship they've had with each other. So it's not, it didn't seem to appear to have any ill will towards each other. Just, I mean, I've been in situations like that before where I've had a friend who was extremely negative, who I'd been friends with for about 20 years, and had to end up distancing myself from that friend just because he was holding me back personally and professionally, because I would have never been able to have my singing career, have any of this, or pursue anything, with that kind of negative influence in my life. And it might have been just a situation like that where they were disagreeing about things or left out of things, and the relationship in that respect had to end, which is very possible. So like I said, I'm not going to speculate anymore on that. Just wish everyone the best of luck. I did have one really good conversation years and years and years ago with Kevin Castle regarding a pet of mine had died that day, and I had to continue to go work, and it was regarding the Don Tony Kevin Castle show, and I thank them for helping me through that and being able to laugh on my way to work, because at the time I was doing contracted IT deployment work, and I had to drive all around the state, and I just put DTKC on and was able to laugh and forget about anything that happened previously. So definitely, I had some great comments from him in the past about that. But do I expect him to remember any of that? No. I don't expect any of them to remember any of the conversations they've had with me in the past, because I'm sure they have hundreds of fans who have contacted them regarding various things. So, like I said, unfortunately, part of being a fan, after listening to these people for so long, talk about their personal lives, talk about what's going on in their lives, unfortunately, do think you know them, but when the reality, I should say, of the situation is you don't. So yeah, I'd like to strongly discourage any judgment, because I know there was a lot of backlash from some of the Don Tony fans against Missionary, and it's not well placed. It's not appropriate. He's done a lot for that show, and Don Tony's done a lot for his show. So it's there shouldn't be any type of negative social media going around. I know there will be, because people are trolls, and things like this tend to bring about the worst in people, and that should never be. It should all be positive, because these guys are doing some great work and doing some great things, and should be applauded for their efforts rather than brought down. I know that in June, Don Tony and Kevin Castle are reuniting for one show, and they're bringing Killer Kross on the show. So that is exciting news. I'm super stoked to hear that. Killer Kross is one of my favorite wrestlers, and to hear him back on the show with Don Tony and Kevin Castle, it's gonna be really exciting. So I'm looking forward to that in June. So, and there's something that people didn't think they'd ever hear again. Is Don Tony and Kevin Castle. So that's gonna be really cool to hear. I like the chemistry between those two. I like the chemistry between Missionary and Kevin Castle on Wrestling Suplex, chemistry between Missionary and Joey Numbers. So all those shows I find greatly entertaining, and we should all support them and continue to do so. Despite, like I said, you don't know what's going on in people's personal lives. If I could actually speak, sorry, you don't know what's going on with them. But they'll continue to put out some great products, and put on a great show. In some more local news, Billy Corgan is going to bring NWA to Knoxville on June 11th. So that's going to be cool. Knoxville, Tennessee. And this show's based out of Tennessee, so that should be pretty cool. Another cool thing that's happening here in Tennessee, May 21st. The Young Goats are going to face off against Rock and Roll Express in TWX in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm really excited about that. I've been following Zay Washington for a little while. He was a neighbor of mine for a little while here now, and been watching him since his TIWF days. Since he still wrestles in TIWF, but it's been exciting following his career go up through Memphis Championship Wrestling and all the various organizations. I've been seeing him show up, and he's a super talented wrestler, and as is his teammate, and which I apologize, his name eludes me right now. I greatly apologize for that, but that's gonna be a real fun match, I think, and I'm looking forward to that a lot. Rock and Roll Express is retiring this year. They're on their retirement tour, farewell tour, and it's going to be a good one. They've been facing off against some really, really great teams, and I'm looking forward to see them go up against the Young Goats. So that's going to be May 21st. So that should be a lot of fun. Other than that, I didn't get to watch Memphis Championship this week, so I got no comments regarding that. I did get to watch Monday Night Raw. Finally got to see Rhea Ripley turn heel against Liv Morgan. Hoping that the rumors are true and that she's going to join up with Edge's faction, because I think she'll fit in really well with that group. I think that'll be fun to watch. She'll fit in real well with that group with and I think that'll work well. I think that'll work really well. Other than that, let's see, I think we saw Veer Mahaan with another squash match. They're really not doing this guy any favors, I don't think. I mean, they gotta get a mouthpiece for him or something. It's just starting to look silly and two-dimensional. We saw Ezekiel with another comedic segment, passing a lie detector test. I kind of like this deal. I don't know why, but I'm actually entertained by this silly, stupid stuff. part of the reason is Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is doing a great job of doing this. So is Ezekiel / Elias, whatever you want to call him. I mean, initially I was really put off with the look for Ezekiel because I liked Elias. I thought he had a great gimmick, and he looks great with the beard. It just looks weird without it. But he's doing well with this gimmick, and he's making it work in combination with Kevin Owens. He's probably got the best partner to do it with. So, even though I miss beard, it's made me laugh a few times. I mean, and I can't deny that. Just as dumb as it is, it's made me laugh. We had a good segment with AJ Styles with Damian Priest and Edge beating the hell out of him in the locker room. That looked pretty vicious. So that's kind of leading up to their next match at Backlash, which is coming up. That should be. I hope it's better than the WrestleMania match, because I like Edge and I'm a huge AJ Styles fan, but for some reason that match just fell flat. It felt, by the numbers, it felt boring, and I'm hoping to God that they can put a better match together at Backlash. I'm sorry, WrestleMania Backlash, full name. We had Austin Theory win the United States title. I really like this segment because they're booking him the right way. They're building him up well, and I like it. The whole association with Mr. McMahon and him coming out at the end to give the rub to him, I thought worked really well, and I think this kid's got a good future, and I think he's going to do well, and it's smart to put the belt on him, especially after the loss at WrestleMania. Now they put the belt on him, and it helps him out tremendously, so, and then having all the heels come out and put them on his shoulders, I thought that was a really good touch. So that was a fun segment, and I don't know if it was directly after that, but we had the commitment ceremony, which was an absolute cluster F. Holy cow. It was mildly amusing. It was kind of a throwback thing to the old weddings. And having R-Truth officiate it was probably the best thing they could have done, because that made that segment bearable. It was just dumb fun. And the comment with the PG when, and Snuka and, wow. And, holy crap, my brain is not functioning properly today. I'm sorry, Dana Brooks, we're gonna kiss. I thought that was a great comment that he had, about it being not PG. I thought that was great. We had Rampage. Let's see, I know we had the Battle of the Belts, but we already went over that with Sammy Guevara winning the belt back. Then we had a interaction again with him, Scorpio Sky. I couldn't believe how quickly they turned Sammy Guevara heel. Jeez, that was just in a split second. At least they were reading the crowd and reading the room and pulled the trigger on it immediately. So that was smart booking on their part. And then they basically made Dan Lambert and Scorpio Sky baby faces overnight. But some reason it worked. Man, I don't know. It's like I don't know how they managed to pull that off. But for once AEW did some really good booking there. Not to say that they don't always, book well, but they've really got to tighten up some of their booking. It's just getting incohesive. It doesn't feel like a unit, It kind of feels like everybody's just doing their own separate thing, and doesn't have a real good feel to it, Other than that, Darby Allin versus Andrade Idolo, of course that was a good match, of course. You got Darby Allin, you got Andrade. Of course, it was a good match. Wardlow versus the Butcher was just another thing to set up Wardlow faces MJF. To start things off, we had CM Punk versus Dustin Rhodes. Really good match. Great match. You know, a lot of people should take notes on that one. That was an excellent match. I was looking forward to that, and that didn't disappoint. You know, I had the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament qualifier, Jungle Boy versus Kyle O'Reilly. We had the women's side of that. Danielle Carmella versus Britt Baker, big deal. Hook's Dynamite debut, was on there. Then we had the even before I think we had the earth-shattering announcement from Tony Khan. With the news that that AEW and New Japan are doing a pay-per-view together. That should be interesting. It should be good. It wasn't the amazing earth-shattering news that one could expect. It wasn't, like I said, I mean, he builds these announcements up and builds them up and builds them up until when he finally announces them, they're just kind of like lackluster. It's anticlimactic when he actually does, Dixie Carter used to do the same thing with TNA, and I get that you're trying to draw attention to your product. The problem with this New Japan deal is, like I've kind of said with the before, you're hitting a very niche sort of audience. You're not appealing to the casual viewer of wrestling, so it doesn't really help to bring any new fans into AEW, and that's one of the reasons why AEW is kind of plateaued in the ratings. There isn't anyone new coming in to watch this stuff because they really don't have any incentive to. They've signed most of the big names, and they've brought CM Punk out of retirement, yada yada yada, and which is amazing. I love it, but I have a feeling I'm part of the minority as far as wrestling audiences. A lot of the people watching WWE don't know who a lot of these people are, and that, so they've got to figure out more ways to bring casual viewers, and one way I think would be kind of stepping up the production value of the show, and because there's something odd about the lighting of that show. I don't know what it is. It's almost like a bluish lighting, and you see a definite difference between that and when you watch the WWE product. Don't get me wrong. I like the AEW product much better, but AEW product, I should say, much better, but there are some production elements that I think if they incorporated, I think it would help bring in some new viewership. And then if you combine that with better booking, especially with the Rampage show, I mean, because right now they've got so many things going on. They've got to figure out what to do with Ring of Honor. They've got to figure out what to do with a lot of the wrestlers that aren't making it onto TV. They've got all these YouTube shows going on, but nobody's watching these shows. I'm not watching them, and I'm a wrestling fan, and that's a problem. That's a real big problem. If you can't even draw in hardcore wrestling fans to watch your YouTube shows, like Dark and Elevation, that's a major issue, because a lot of times, obviously are a step below Rampage, and a lot of times lately Rampage has been feeling really flat. I don't know if it's because it's on so late on Friday nights or just bad booking, but part of the reason is a lot of times it's not live. It's taped right after a Dynamite, and by that time the crowd is absolutely exhausted, and they've been through several hours of wrestling already, because they tend to tape all those episodes in one night. Occasionally that they will have the Rampage on live. They will do this, they'll do that, especially if they have a surprise. Because obviously that's another major issue is you can't do any surprises in the pre-tape shows. It's almost like if they pre-tape Rampage, why even bother watching it? Because you already know the results, and you already know that there's not going to be any major shock debuts or surprises that or heel turns or anything that occur on the show, because if there were, it would have leaked and people would have posted it several thousand times on websites, and that's that. It's kind of living in, the 21st century now. That's what you got to put up with. Everything has to be live now. So they've got some definite issues to work out there, and I have some issues with the direction too. I mean, I don't know if they need to bring in more cameras, but one of the things that WWE does so incredibly well is hide a lot of the inadequacies of some of the wrestlers to the casual viewer. And they do this by cutting proper angles, switching cameras at the right time, and things of that nature, quick cut angles, good directing, and which is extremely difficult to do in a live situation, but they do it incredibly well. And I've noticed that when you start getting lower on the food chain with wrestling shows, and I'm going to put AEW slightly below that, sorry, you notice that the directing isn't as sharp, and you notice that you'll see things that you wouldn't normally see at a WWE show, and it's not because they're not occurring, it's because the director is skillful enough not to show it to you. Because I honestly think if you took a general consensus, AEW's wrestlers are much better than some of the WWE wrestlers, but some of the talent that WWE is showing on there is on par with some of the lower level talent that AEW is showing. And a lot of times, I mean, you can't, not to put anybody down, but you can't tell me like a Liv Morgan or someone like that is better than Thunder Rosa or better than Serena Deeb. You can't tell me that. But it's all on how you book her and what you show on television, what you don't show on television. That builds everything up. Wrestling is akin to a magic show. It's illusion. It's not what you see. It's a lot of what you don't see. You don't see the magician hiding the card in his jacket. You don't see these things. That's what WWE is so adept at. They're good at hiding their own flaws and approaching things with an extremely high production value. And that's something I think that AEW has to work on. I don't know if they have this feeling that they want to make it appear lower budget, because I think Tony Khan has a fascination with ECW, and he has a fascination with like the Attitude Era and whatnot, and I think he wants to keep that rough style to appeal to that crowd and to appeal to himself, because primarily the guy is booking for himself. I don't think he's booking for a mass audience. I think he's setting up dream matches. I think he's setting up things that he envisioned long, long ago as being entertaining to himself. And I hate to use this, but like a king on a throne, he's calling for his jester to entertain him. And that's kind of what AEW appears to me week in, week out sometimes. I find it entertaining because I've been a wrestling fan since I was a small child. I know a little bit about the industry, and I know good wrestlers, and I can see, what entertains me, and the AEW puts that on display a lot. But like I said, to the casual fan tuning in, I can very well see them looking at that and seeing it almost as a second-rate show. They might not be able to tell you why, but as someone who's worked in television, as someone who's done professional camera work, as someone who's done direction of television, who's worked as a production system assistant at a network, I can look at what they're doing and say, wow, you really should have cut away at that moment, or you really should have. And that's another thing too. It's not just quick cut action. Sometimes you gotta let the moment build, and that's something that AEW is absolutely horrible about, is letting the moment build. Like when SCU broke up as a team. There's a team that's been together and pretty legendary within the independent circuit within TNA within Ring of Honor. That was a big deal. AEW immediately quick cut to something happening backstage. They should have lingered on that moment for about a minute or so and really made the moment impactful. Because the way they treated it, it was just another thing you throw in the garbage. It was another moment that just you blink and you miss it. And that was inexcusable. And that's something they got to learn is pacing and dynamics. You're telling a story. You're not just putting on spot fests. You're not just putting on one match after another. You're not just displaying athletic talent. You're telling a story. And that's something they've got to learn before it's too late, because they're going to end up like TNA. They're going to end up like Impact Wrestling if they don't. So, put your ego aside, Mr. Khan, and put together a good wrestling show. You've made me happy with the product, but you've got to continue to evolve and grow. And saying dumb things on Twitter and reacting emotionally and calling people bots that aren't bots. They're just people criticizing your product. And here's the thing. If I didn't like the product, if I didn't want to see the product succeed, I'd keep my mouth shut and I wouldn't say a damn thing about it. But because I enjoy the product and because I want it to be an even better product, I'll continue to criticize it because of that. Like I said, I enjoy the show better than WWE, but WWE is WrestleMania put on a damn entertaining show. And they're catching up in that department in a lot of regards. And you're going to start losing viewers if you don't wake up and start, realizing that you've got some really great building blocks. You got some foundation. You got the pillars of your foundation. You've established them. Build on it now. And continue to grow. And continue to tell stories. Not just for millennials, but expand that audience. For newbies, for people who don't know the show, expand that audience. Otherwise, the show is going to stagnate. And it's going to die. It's going to go the way of TNA. It's going to go the way of WCW if you don't. It's time to put the ego aside and realize what you got to do. And that's not, like I said, if I didn't love the product, I wouldn't say a damn thing about it. I would just keep my mouth shut and not say a word. But because I want to see the company flourish, because I want to see it continue to grow, I'll say things like that, and like I said, I do enjoy the product. I do enjoy it more than WWE, but it's got room to grow. It's got room to grow. It's not perfect. Like I said, one of the things I think that's going to be a sink or swim situation for AEW is what they finally decide to do with Ring of Honor. And I was kind of hoping that would be the big announcement last week. Don't get me wrong, the New Japan stuff is going to be really entertaining. Unfortunately, what really sucks about New Japan is they lost the deal with Access Television, what was it, a couple of years ago? Because of that, the American audience is not familiar with the majority of wrestlers on New Japan. So, once again, you're appealing to a niche crowd that tunes into New Japan. I loved it when it was on Access. I thought it was great. Why they canceled it, why they got rid of it, I have no idea. I don't know if maybe I was one of the few people that enjoyed the product, but I really did. I loved it. I thought it was great. Since Access dropped it, I've not watched a single New Japan match. I'm sorry. I think I watched, maybe after that. I don't know if that was after they dropped it, that the Ospreay Lance Archer match happened. I remember watching that, but other than that, the general American public has absolutely no idea what New Japan is, unfortunately. So you're going to struggle to get buy rates. I know we don't use that term anymore, but I do, because it's people who are buying the product. You're going to get buy rates for that particular pay-per-view. Will it be a great pay-per-view? Heck yeah. I think it's going to be an awesome pay-per-view. Does that mean people are going to watch it? Probably not. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really good. Like I said, I was hoping that they were going to come out with an announcement regarding Ring of Honor. Because Tony Khan has to figure out what he's going to do with Ring of Honor. Because shoehorning it into Dynamite programming is a bit confusing, and I'm not sure it's working. I think it needs to be its own separate program, whether that's on YouTube or whether that's on TNT or another network. I don't know, but I think I'd watch it if it was on YouTube, if they had some crossover with AEW. And that gives you another platform to utilize some of the wrestlers that you're not currently utilizing they're on staff. They're on the roster, I should say. So I'm hoping they go that route, because I think that would be very successful. I think it would work very well. But yeah, like I said, they've got to figure these things out, because right now it just looks like a rich kid playing with his toys, playing with wrestling action figures, and setting up dream matches for himself. Like I said, I still enjoy the product, but and I still entertains me the most. But if this continues at this rate, I can see myself burning out on it a year from now, just because it's not offering anything different. It's not offering any opportunity for growth. Sorry about the diatribe, but that's how I feel about a lot of those things. Other things I'm looking forward with AEW. Danhausen made his premiere. Wasn't at I forgot which variation he did his match with, but he's obviously starting a feud with Hook, which I think that'll be fun. I really do. It's good to see that Danhausen compete again. He had a real nasty accident right in Knoxville, unfortunately. Of course, happened in Tennessee, but it's good to see him heal up. It's good to see his leg mended, and there's another dude that it's so stupid that I enjoy it. I don't know what the heck it is. I think it's because it kind of partially makes fun of like horror, kind of intertwined with maybe like a metal twist. So I think that's why it appeals to me, because that's kind of my genre in the past. So it kind of appeals to me. A lot of people, I see me as this country artist, which I am currently doing. That's kind of my thing. But in the past, my background is primarily in punk and thrash metal. I mean, the intro to the show, that's me playing. So if you ever wonder who's playing the intro, that's me. I was playing around with a Van Halen setting on one of my amp simulators, and I wanted to do a little 2-hand tap, and that's what came out of it. That was a 5-minute experiment on myself, and people seemed to enjoy it, so I incorporated it into the show. So that's kind of the way I've been feeling about AEW. Kind of going, not to beat a dead horse, but kind of getting back to the whole Don Tony Mish Thomas thing that happened last week. Like I was talking about before, adults go through things, and I mentioned that I had a friend that I ended up basically cutting myself off from because of that. Getting back to that, I kind of wanted to address, if you listen to the first show of this, we had a co-host, and Matt came onto the show. The formation of the show was based entirely on the fact that we still do. I shouldn't say used to. I see the guy like 5 days a week. So we still have these incredible conversations at work about wrestling. And that kind of gave me the idea, we're having this great conversation. Why waste this at work? Why not put it into a podcast format? And I think people would enjoy it. I think it'd be highly entertaining. I know I got a lot of laughs out of it, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of the conversations that we had. So I figured, why not put it on file? And maybe some other people might enjoy it too. And unfortunately the second show came about, and Matt ended up having to take his wife to the hospital. then the next show came about, and unfortunately work got in the way and things got in the way, because at one point they were working every weekend pretty much, and they're working like 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts. So it was impossible for Matt to continue to do his show. And was I upset when this initially happened? Absolutely. Was I upset with Matt? No, of course not. Because I understand that life gets in the way, and this kind of relates back to the way, like I said, the way Don Tony, Kim Castle, Missionary, that whole relationship between those guys. Things happen in real life that don't allow you to continue sometimes going on a professional course, and that's the way life is. And would I love to see Matt back on the show? Absolutely. I welcome with open arms. His seat's right here still. I still got it set up. So, if he ever decides he wants to come back to the show, heck yeah. Like I said, life kind of got in the way of things, but was I upset with him? No. Was I upset because I had to go through and do twice the work, of not only producing the show, now I had to producing engineering, blah, 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 being host. Now I had to basically change the format of the show and go into more of a standard podcast format for wrestling, which I initially didn't want to do because I felt like that market already had some great people doing it, and I didn't want to go this route. But, when you have to produce a show, then that's what happens, unfortunately. You have to adapt. You have to keep going. Otherwise, you're not going to survive. So that's what happened. Because initially, the format of this show was going to be radically different than what you hear now. It was going to be addressing individual topics each week rather than kind of doing a summary of the week. But out of respect for Matt, I decided to dispose of that and go this format. That way, if he ever wanted to return, I have an entire notebook full of ideas for episodes that we're going to do, based on various topics, and it was going to be a very topic-oriented, discussing one topic per week kind of thing. So we might revisit that format in the future, and might not. I don't know. It's a discussion I'm going to have with him and see where he wants to go and how comfortable he feels with things, if he wants to come back to the show or not. But that's a discussion I'll have in private with him, not on the air, But that's not a shot at Missionary. It's not. So don't take it that way. Like I said, his relationship with Don Tony is probably very different than the friendship I have with Matt. So I'm not going to put that on him, But that's kind of where we sit, as far as the format of the show. I intend to change the format coming up pretty soon. I'd like to include more topics from outside of the wrestling world. I'd like to incorporate additional shows, maybe some video. A lot of this is going to be dependent on what my budget is for those shows coming up, because I'll have to pay for services that will allow me to do video, and that's something I'll have to discuss as a family, and we'll have to go from there. But that's something I've been wanting to do, as far as interviews and whatnot with individuals outside of the wrestling world, and within the wrestling world. I've got this vast network of people that I've met throughout the years who are musicians, authors, various wrestlers, various walks of life that I would love to give them a platform to speak on. So that's something also I think that you're probably going to see down the road. So in addition to the wrestling content, I want to pursue that too. But like I said, that's something that might budgetary and time constraints might restrict that, but that's something I'd like to develop further. And on that note, kind of start closing things out. Once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. I'd like to give a shout out to Lucky Lady Candles. Please find them online. Find them on Facebook, on Etsy. Mother's Day is coming up. coming up really quickly. So you want to impress your mother, buy her some handcrafted candles, buy her some great stuff from Lucky Lady Candles. In addition to that, if you live in the Trenton, Tennessee area, or I should say Western Tennessee area in general, check out Then and Now Flea Market. You know, we've got some of our products on there. I've got my CD. I've got some of my wife has some handmade products, I should say, handcrafted products. And there's some great vendors on there. You can buy new stuff, used stuff. You can buy handcrafted stuff. Pretty much anything you're looking for, you can find it. Then Now Flea Market, downtown Tennessee, right in the square there. You know, across from the courthouse. You can't miss it. Just look for the sign. You know, it's a great place, like I said, and we have our stuff on sale there, so you can go down and support myself and buy a CD or buy some really cool products from my wife and check them out. You know, and of course we have to give a shout out to ourselves. You know, Crushing Kayfabe, crushingkayfabe.com, crushing with a K, crushingkayfabe.com, and there you can find a link to Facebook, to Instagram, to YouTube, you know, and like us on there. Throw a like. You know, if you like the show, please press the like button. Please, it helps out immensely. You have no idea how much it helps with the YouTube algorithm, with the Spotify algorithm. It helps out tremendously. So please do so. And you can get all of our social media links from there. But in addition to that, we also have a site on Patreon. We have Patreon.com has we have a profile on there, which for $1 a month, you can get the show ad-free. So go, throw $1 in the pot, you know, every month, and you can listen to the show ad-free every month. You'll get notifications when a new show is up, and you'll get privy to announcements and anything special we have coming up. You know, we might have some Patreon specific shows in the future. They're going to be solely placed on Patreon. So if you pay that $1, you're really getting a bargain. You know, and you help us keep the lights on, help us keep doing what we do. So that would be awesome. You know, other than that, you know, please continue to pray for the people in Ukraine. You know, there are plenty of organizations that can help out, Red Cross, UNICEF, whatnot. Please, you know, track those organizations down and please donate, because the Ukrainian people need your help. You know, I know that we start to get kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? We see it on TV every day, and you start to get desensitized to it. You start to kind of forget about it, and you start to live your daily life. You know, there's only so many bombings you can see, there's only so many attacks you can see, but when you turn on the news and see an Easter service that's been disrupted and people dying because of Russian attacks during Easter, that is just, I don't want to say unforgivable, but I mean that's irreprehensible, and that needs to be rectified. So please, people, donate. Do what you can, please. You know, pray for the Ukrainian people. Some awesome people who are really showing us, you know, some will to live and what patriotism is all about. So my prayers go out to them. Please, you know, help them out, please. Other than that, you know, thank you everybody for tuning in. God bless and thank you.